serious news to pass on to everybody. What I'm about to say could mean the world's disaster, could change your joy and laughter to tears and pain. It's that love in me, of love today. Don't delay, send yours in right away, because hate's going round, breaking many hearts. So stop it, please, before it's gone too far. The thoughts of evil plans to make you its possession, and it will if we let it destroy everybody. We all must take precautionary measures. If love and peace you treasure, you'll hear me when I say, oh, that love in need of love today. Don't delay, send yours in right away, because hate's going round, breaking many hearts. So stop it, please, before it's gone too far. Oh, love in need of love today. Don't delay, send yours in right away, because hate's going round, it's breaking many hearts. So stop it, please, before it's gone too far. Thank you all. Thanks for being here. Now I would love to bring out Dr. Barry Ebert. He's going to sing a familiar song for us.
Surely the presence of God is in this place. I can feel the mighty power and the grace. I can hear the brush of angel wings. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of God is in this place. Surely the presence of God is in this place. I can feel the mighty power and the grace. I can hear the brush of angel wings. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of God
What a joy it is to enter into this prayerful space together. So I invite us now to breathe deeply, to feel ourselves stepping into a centered awareness as we breathe in the very breath of life together and recognize the power and the presence of the Divine One that expresses itself in, through, and as all creation. We allow our breath to lead us into that full recognition of the divine and feel the images of beauty and light and love that rise forth from within us, this clear space within us. Feel and sense the qualities of this divine essence, the love and the wholeness, the peace and well-being, the harmony and the light that we equate and sense is the truest essence of God, of love, of the source. And as we do this, we breathe in this very presence together in this holy sacred moment and feel and sense that light and that presence as our presence. I accept and affirm this light and this love is the truth of who I am and the truth of every being within the sound of my voice, that we stand together in this moment fully connected. And for those of us who have been to Mile High Church many times, we imagine ourselves now in this space of connectedness. Energetically, we might even imagine ourselves sitting in these seats that we blessed this morning and accept and affirm that we are all present together. Though we exist physically in cyberspace, we know that the truth of us is that our hearts and our souls and this one life that connects all creation connects us this morning. And for those of us who are watching who've never been to this physical campus, we step into that connectedness and we feel our unity and our oneness and our wholeness. We are one. We are connected. And we breathe it in and we breathe it out. And allow ourselves to acknowledge this divine connection that we are and that we experience. And through this connection that not only touches each one of us who are watching this service, we feel and sense that we are at one with all beings everywhere. The truth of us from a spiritual place connects us. The truth of us in our human hearts connects us. And therefore, we accept and affirm this energy of the divine healing us, creating wholeness in our life, in our conditions, in our bodies, continuing to assist us and be with us as we move through any condition, and we thrive and we are alive and we are guided, and we accept and affirm this for ourselves. And in this place where we are all one, we send this out to all beings everywhere. We know that if there are hearts that are hurting, if there are people experiencing fear or illness, that we can and do pray and send our love, and that it matters that we do this. It matters for us, it matters for our world, and we joyfully enter into this consciousness of love on our behalf and on behalf of all beings everywhere. And we allow ourselves to be open and receptive then to the joy and the wisdom and the inspiration that comes to us this day through our own inner awareness and through the experience that we share of this service. We know that all of the elements are coming together to bless us. The music, the beautiful message from Dr. Roger Teel, this time that we spend together is holy, sacred, comforting, uplifting, and inspiring. I claim this, I know this, and I'm so grateful for all of this good that is made manifest now. As I release this word into that law that makes it so, I let it go, I let it be, it is done. And so it is. Amen.
When you walk through a storm, hold your head up high and don't be afraid of the dark. At the end of a storm is a golden the sweet silver song of our Lord. Walk on through the wind, walk on through the rain, though your dreams be tossed and blown. Walk on with hope in your heart, and you'll never walk alone. You'll never walk alone. At the end of a storm is a golden sky, and the sweet silver song of our Lord. Walk on through the wind, walk on through the rain, though your dreams be tossed and blown. Walk on with hope in your heart, and you'll never walk alone. You'll
Thank you, Tom Litch and the Mile High Band. I don't know about you two, but I just got a full house feeling from that song.
Wow.
So grateful
So nice.
for these incredible musicians, and so grateful that you're with us this morning. Welcome to Mile High Church. If you're new to our church and what you're looking for is an inclusive spirituality that honors the best in all faiths, if you're looking for a pragmatic spirituality that you can apply to issues of today, and if you're looking for a loving spirituality that holds all of life, especially in challenging times, with a deep knowing that we can get through this, you're tuning into the right service today. And if you're a longtime Mile Higher, and this is for everybody, thank you for your spiritual work, for the work that you're doing in your own consciousness that is assisting all of us get through this challenging time. And so blessed and always a little humbled to get to share the stage with Michelle Medrano and Dr. Roger Teel. So grateful to have you with us here today. And
Oh, thanks, Josh. It's always a joy. Always a joy.
and so looking forward to hearing a message from you a little later, Dr. Roger. And I just thought I'd begin this morning by checking in, seeing how you're doing. And I know for so many of us, this is a time of pause, a time of halt, but it's also a time of reinvention and recreation. And so I just thought I'd ask you to as well, what is it in this time that you're holding on to as you're taking care of yourself and as you're perhaps reinventing your lives in some ways?
Well, I'm doing great, Josh. Thanks for asking, and happy Sunday, beloved Mile Highers. I'm as ornery as ever, pretty much. Pray for Erica in that regard. But I think that for me, I'm looking, as I think most of us are, at what to let go of that this time has offered, and what to take on more, what to emphasize more. And that's a very powerful exercise anytime, but it seems like when our lives are in this social distancing and in quarantine, it's like under a microscope. Have you felt that? That it's so much more focused. We're drawn to inner assessment and life assessment at some very deep levels. And for me, I am looking at what is it going to take for me to be an even greater part of the unifying of humanity. It seems like there still is these undercurrents of divisiveness going on at a time when it feels like we need to be together and at one in heart and mind more than ever before. I still see that going on, and I think that that's an opportunity to take a look at where do I go with tension or stress or the unknown or fear. Where do I let it take me? And it can take us into a higher place or a lower place. And I think this is a real opportunity for us to stand back and look at, yes, our lives, but then take a big look at humanity's ongoing journey. You know, what is it about us that struggles so much to find our home in our hearts, and to actually strive to be more near others when things are tough than apart.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I'll never forget when we facilitated with an organization I helped co-found a couple decades ago, the Association for Global New Thought, and we were privileged to get to create and convene three meetings called the Synthesis Dialogues. They're about 3 years apart, each one. And we would meet with invited world leaders, social leaders, spiritual leaders, philosophers, and we would lean into the deeper challenges of life. And then, after about 3 days of that, His Holiness the Dalai Lama would arrive. And we would sort of deliver our summation thus far to him. And then we would just get his input, and that would almost always take the dialogue to a higher and higher level. And I am forever impressed with the heart of that man, because he never spoke ill of the oppressors of his people, the Chinese. He never, ever did that. In fact, he would say, "My friends, the Chinese," perhaps disclosing that, yeah, he did not approve of what they were doing, but he couldn't leave them out of his heart.
Right.
And he couldn't close them down. He couldn't separate and hold them in this hostility that just wasn't who he is, nor is that the path of true spirituality or even his own Tibetan spirituality. So that's one thing I'd just start us off with, is the power we have now to of great self-examination and collective examination, and perhaps be a part of springboarding to a new and greater level. Will everybody join us? I don't know. But I do know that we can be part of a wave of a higher way of being.
And we all contribute to it individually. You know, I find it interesting how our own stories mirror the human story too, and we can all do our part in that as well. How about for you, Michelle?
Well, first of all, I'd like to vote that in these conversations in the future, he goes last, because that's hard to follow. It's a great, wise thing that you're saying. And for both of what you were saying, when you said the word halt and what you're talking about, Dr. Roger, is reminding me of how in this time I can feel myself feeling tempted to not think beyond the limitations that have been placed upon us in this quarantine time. And there's a part of me that always loves innovation and being creative. So I've found myself challenging myself not to just stop and not think that I can't create more connection, create more meaning, contribute in ways just because the conditions of life may have caused us to stop. I'm a big movie fan. I've been watching some movies, and I recently watched Captain Marvel, and my favorite scene in that whole movie is this moment where she's being oppressed, and she's starting to go back in her memory bank and remembering all her times in her life as a little girl and as she was growing up where she was stopped, and how she rose up. And she rose up every time she got up. And she says, that's the beauty of human beings, that no matter how hard it gets, we rise up. And then she rises up, of course, into this great power, which is all very fictional. But it really touched my heart, because I really am seeing that even though I can feel this thing that wants to keep me from going forward, where will I rise up? Where will I rise and create more connection and more meaning and more opportunities to be with people and to support people and to love people and inspire people, whatever that might look like. And so I've really appreciated that here at Mile High Church, we've done that a lot. We've really been innovative during this time and said, how can we keep supporting people? So I thank you for that as my partner in ministry and all of our ministerial team and our whole staff and volunteers. We've just really continued to do this great work, and I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, I think it's important to remember that conditions on the ground don't define us. It's how we respond to those conditions that ultimately will tell the story of who we are and how we show up. And I've been recalling a favorite quote from Viktor Frankl this week that he said about our country. He said, it would be interesting for the Statue of Liberty on the East Coast if you also had a Statue of Responsibility on the West Coast. And it's interesting to think that for the conversations that we're having in our country and in our states about getting back to life and getting back to normal, it's also reflective of the inner dialogue a lot of us are having for ourselves. How can I get back to the way things that were and live in my freedom, but also on a responsibility of caring for others, of showing up, of doing my civic duty, whatever it may be. And it's an interesting question for all of us to find, how do I balance my beloved freedom with being responsible for my fellow human beings around me? I don't know all the answers to that, but that's something that's been coming up for me this week. And again, remembering those conditions, they may define the ground rules, but they don't define my spirit and how each of us can show up with love and innovation and creativity and live even thriving lives in the midst of challenges.
That is true. And we have brought today a song for you all from some guest artists who've been giving us beautiful videos, and it's from Gypsy Soul. It's a pretty familiar song, and you'll see in the middle of it an homage, a dedication, and gratitude to many people who are really stepping up as heroes during this time to uplift humanity, to take care of us, to support us. And so please enjoy this music from Gypsy Soul.
Hello to all of our friends at Mile High. We hope that this is finding you as well as can be.
We hope you all stay well, healthy, and remember that it is a wonderful world.
Still a wonderful world.
What a faces of the people going by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? But they're really saying, I love you. Oh, and I hear babies cry, and I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I'll ever know. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Oh, 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 yes, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Ooh, yeah. Love you guys.
Thank you, Gypsy Soul, and thank you for all the incredible musical artists who've helped support us in this time. And thank you for your continued financial support of Mile High Church. I want to remind you of 3 ways that you can support us here. You can text to give. Just text Mile High and the amount you want to give to 45888. You can go to milehighchurch.org and give a gift that way, or you can do it the old-fashioned way, snail mail, and our address is there on the screen if you want to support us that way as well. We're going strong because of you. Thank you so much. And one of the things that we've loved, including in these online services, are conversations with friends of Mile High Church who maybe live far away. And we were blown away last year by an event we had with Matt Kahn, and recently our own Michelle Medrano had a conversation with him, and we'd like to share that with you now.
Hi, this is Michelle Medrano, and I'm so happy to be here today with Matt Kahn, who was here with us at Mile High Church last year. We had a wonderful event with him. Thank you so much for being with us today, Matt.
Well, thanks for having me. It's really an honor to be here, especially during these very uncertain times.
What words of wisdom do you have, oh wise one?
Well, here's what I'll start off by saying is that we are experiencing, for a lot of us on a spiritual journey, we've gone through the journey of taking breaks from the endless doing and finding solace in a state of being. And we are very much watching the entire world be thrust into a quite advanced meditation retreat that not a lot of people remember signing up for.
That's
so
exactly right.
here we are at a meditation retreat called life. And what is typical is in the patterning of life is that we see a taking away of resources on the outside. We see what looks like the stripping away of privileges. And what we find is that when life takes from us on the outside, it's actually just giving us a chance to turn our attention inward and to discover a wellspring and a harvest of spiritual and energetic gifts on the inside. So if life takes on the outside, it's just a way to say, now let's go within and find more in a different place, perhaps. And really, very specifically, as people are experiencing fear, which is fear is the nervous system's response to shifting from one level of consciousness to another. So fear is not necessarily, although it's interpreted to be, I am feeling afraid, because when we go from one level of consciousness to another, the ego is afraid that it's not going to make the journey to the next level because it's being integrated. Yeah. So really what fear is our nervous system interpreting, I'm at one level of consciousness, I'm going to the next. And really when life takes away things on the outside, whether it's the privilege of gathering at restaurants for a temporary amount of time, going to the gym, assembling. I had an event I was so excited to do that I'm now going to do in July. But when life disrupts the patterns of our reality, it's actually an invitation on the inside to slow down. And what I find be helpful is tips to help people make their way through this, is that life is intentionally trying to slow us down. When we are abiding by the state of our internal being, We are not looking at anything at this moment past the moment we're in. So the question becomes, what do I need in this moment only? What do I need to get from this moment to the next moment to the next? We will, in a very short amount of time, find ourselves returning to the normalcy of our society. But this is where life says, we temporarily take away external privileges to show you how to go inside and find more of a harvest in your emotional and your energetic state of being.
That's beautiful. I think that sounds like the kind of spiritual practice that we want to be about most of the time in our lives anyway. And it reminds me of that movie in What About Bob, when Bill Murray's character is reading the book about baby steps, and he's like, baby step out the office, baby step to the elevator,
That's right.
baby step onto the elevator. It sounds like you're really calling us to conscious baby steps right now, literally in every moment, just being present to the moment we're in.
And to activate the inner alchemists within us that say, if the outside world looks crazy, in peril, and uncertain, whatever adjective someone would give to it, then we say, in regards to the inner alchemists or our inner shaman, let me use the law of polarity and let me bring to the planet the opposite vibration than what I see. So if I see a world of scattered people running around, let me walk from my kitchen to my living room as softly as possible. Let me speak almost louder than a whisper, so not to disturb the healing planet. Let me breathe more mindfully. Let me love more authentically. And let this stripping away of conditioning actually up-level me into my highest frequency and living potential.
That's beautiful. Wow. Thank you. That's really beautiful. Good. Love it. Any other things that you would encourage us to do right now?
So this is a chance for us to get really confident in saying, despite the fact that everywhere I go, it's like this improv game where everyone's acting like the Black Plague is happening. And I'm not saying there isn't a coronavirus. There is.
Right.
However, a lot of us deep down say, I think everything's okay, but until more people agree, I don't know how to trust it. And what I'm going to say is the kind of new thought leader that I've been given the chance to be. Please, of all the things that I will say to do, love your heart, breathe, slow down. The most important thing I can invite everyone to do is trust what you know in the pit of your gut. And to not feel bad that by you not being a part of this hysteria doesn't mean you're disconnected. You are an anchor of light. You are holding space for the universe to bring heaven to earth. And we are here transmuting the pain and the density that other people are trapped in. And we do it by holding the space for a light that doesn't necessarily need to be engaged in what we're healing in others. So please trust that little voice in the back of your head, that feeling in your gut, because I'm here to say it's not wrong. It's a part of your mission as an anchor of light.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you so much, and appreciate all the love and comfort you're giving all of our members and congregants and people watching from all over the planet today, and just bless you in your beautiful work. And thanks again for taking this time with us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Blessings of love to everyone.
Awesome. I just wanted to take a moment and just thank the band for being here. Thank you all for being here and supporting the service. And I also wanted to say that on the 16th, Dr. Kent Rautenstrauss had a birthday. And so we wish him a happy birthday. And today is Rob Lowe's birthday. And so that's kind of cool. We're happy to have Dr. Roger here, and I hope this song supports your message, Dr. Roger. Where are the dreams that we once had? Isn't it time to bring them back? What were the promises caught on the tips of our tongue? Do we forget or forgive? There's a whole lot of life just waiting to be lived.
One day we're brave enough to talk with conviction of the heart. Down your streets I walked alone, as if my feet were not my own. Such is the path I chose. Doors I have opened and closed. I'm tired of living this life, fooling myself, believing we're right, when yet we given up with any conviction of the heart. With the earth, with the sky, one with everything in life, I believe we'll survive if we only try. How long must we all wait to change this world bound in chains that we live in? To know what it is to forgive and be forgiven. Too many years have taken now. Isn't it time to stop somehow? Air that's too angry to breathe, and water our children can't drink. You've heard it hundreds of times. You say you're aware, believe and you care. But do you care enough? Where's your conviction of the heart?
Yep, I want to hear some applause out there. And over the airwaves. Magnificent Tom, Mile High Church Band, and Tom Litch, the director, Dr. Kent, the director of the band. Thank you all. Happy birthday, Kent and Rob. And, well, yeah, that was a couple of weeks ago. Mile Highers, it's great to be back here. And those of you who are tuning in from around the world, welcome to Mile High Church. It's a joy to share some thoughts with you. And I'm just so impressed with all that Mile High Church is doing to overcome our social distancing and to be very near and very powerful. And so thank you. Thank you, Dr. Michelle, Reverend Josh, the whole staff, the team, the music, the tech and the facilities, and everybody who comes together to make this still the spiritual beacon that it truly is. I thought last Sunday's Easter service was fantastic. I loved it. Not sure how you got the whole choir to sing together at different places, but it was marvelous. And the message, Josh, was especially superb. And we're so blessed to have such great leadership here at Mile High Church. Well, let's see. They asked me to share a few thoughts, and of course that's not really possible. The few part is what kind of gets in my way. And I often like to start with a little humor, but I looked around for some quarantine humor, and boy, I couldn't find much, just an inside joke here or there. All right, well now, that's about as good as we can do. So my message title for today is Reclaiming Your Power Zone. Now, it seems to me that we all desire to have a sense of reliable personal power in our lives. The problem is that most people find that their sense of power is fleeting, it's weak, and perhaps even undependable at times. And this is often because people ground their sense of power in accomplishments, in money, things, status, or they base their sense of personal power on dominating and controlling people or situations in life. And the thing about that kind of power, those aspects of power, is that they are ego-oriented and they are outwardly based. And so they're inherently fragile. And they're apt to desert us when we need them the very most. And then something like this pandemic comes along. And for many people, their sense of personal power is not at all fragile. It's absent. It's absent. And that can make this an extremely frightening time. But what if, in times like these, there are actually some very powerful opportunities? Chief among them is the opportunity to realize something greater within ourselves. You see, today I want you to sense and know that there's a zone in you, a vortex of authentic and limitless power. There is that zone. Now, this isn't power over anything or anyone. This is power within. It is power within you, and it is also power that is within any situation, however complicated it may seem to be. Here's the thing. The world is never going to give you power, true power. You'll never find that in the world. But here's the good news. When you find true power, the world can't take it away from you. So today, I invite us to explore the zone of power within us and how we can stand in that place if we know how to do that. Now, so here we are in quarantining and social distancing. It's a bizarre experience to stand in this gorgeous sanctuary and have just a sprinkling of the key people here. And yet I feel your presence. So here we are quarantined, and it's an amazing experience. And yet what I've been amazed by is the upsurgence of a phenomenon during these times. Zoom and things like it. It's amazing. Zoom is an intentional and dynamic connection. So even though we are spread apart and can't be with some that we desire, we have come up with this amazing technology for an intentional and dynamic connection nonetheless. And many businesses and organizations are using it to continue to communicate, to continue to move forward. Mile High Church here, I'm somewhat in the loop here, and Mile High Church has dozens and dozens of Zoom meetings each and every week. Everybody zooming in from their homes. In the Teel home, we're using it to keep in touch with family and friends, and especially our grandchildren. In fact, most nights of the week, we have a bedtime Zoom story with our two youngest grandkids. And I love it. And it feels so good. So here we are in the necessity of being restricted in terms of our closeness. And yet we have found a way to still have a sense of intimacy and togetherness, a sense of presence. And that's such a very beautiful thing. So it got me to thinking, what if we also had inner Zoom meetings? What if we had inner Zoom meetings? And we decided that at an inward level, we are also going to empower this intentional and dynamic connection inwardly. Oh, I tell you what that could do for us is it could put us in deeper touch with the higher realities of this life and the higher realities within us. It could take us back into our inherent God-given power zone. So what I want to leave you with today is I invite you to explore having 3 inner Zoom meetings on a regular basis. 3 inner Zoom meetings so that you can zoom into your zone, as it were. And the first inner Zoom meeting is Zoom with your source. Intentionally, dynamically, moving inwardly to have a connection with your source and all that that can mean. In some respects, as I was contemplating this, I realized that's prayer. Prayer is the ultimate inner Zoom call in some respects. We have this opportunity to shift our focus from the problems and the situations and our concerns and our questions. And while holding those as we must, we also focus on something greater. And we can connect with that something greater within ourselves. And it's very important for our empowerment. I want to share with you a time for me. It was toward the end of my second year in the ministry. And I'll just be quite frank with you, I really had to hit a rough patch, a down patch. I'd been working really, really hard, and in some respects, I probably was working too hard. I was frustrated because I wanted more results, and in all of that, I was getting down on myself. And it was a very painful time for me, a time of wondering, am I doing the right thing I should be doing with my life? So thank God there was a retired minister I've spoken of often who lived in the area, Dr. Ezra Ellis, as I called him. So I made an appointment with Ez, and I drove out to his house, and I shared with him, after a few pleasantries, I said, hey, Ez, I'm down. And I really don't know if I've got what it takes to do this over the long haul. And that man who just exuded compassion, he just had me sit down in his study, and we chatted just a little bit. But then he said, Raj, I'd like us to do an experience together. I'd like to lead you through this. And I said, go for it. And so the first thing he did, and by the way, you might want to do these things right now with me. You can do that. It won't be all that long, but it might be powerful. So he said, first of all, Raj, close your eyes. And don't just shut out the light. Close your eyes as a symbol of moving your focus inward. You can come back to your challenges and the world's problems, but focus inward. Go within. Go to the center of awareness, for that's who you really are. So I closed my eyes. Maybe you're doing that now too. And then Ez said, let's do some breathing together. And he said, Raj, breathe in through your nostrils, a full breath, and then breathe out of your mouth as though you're breathing through a straw. Let's do that together a second time. Deep breath through the nostrils. Breathing out is through a straw. One more time. Breathing in. And already, as he led me through that, I remember feeling a deepening, an even greater stilling within me. And then Ez said, now, Roger, keep releasing. But here's what I want. I invite you to feel like you're being held. You're being held by this greater power, this love in this universe. And he said to me, he reminded me, you didn't create yourself, Roger. Something did. an intelligence, a power, a love. You don't even breathe yourself. You're part of this. So in this moment, feel held. And I did. And that's when some tears welled up for me. Because we sometimes go through this life unnecessarily feeling so alone. And we're not. And then as he gave me a few minutes to just feel that exquisite feeling of being held by a love, by an intelligence more than words can say, he then said, I'm going to share with you a passage that I cherish. He said, let these words sink in deep. Have you not realized? Have you not heard that the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth, faints not, neither is weary. He gives power to the faint and to them that have no might. He increases their strength. They that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. And he paused. And then I remember him saying the last part of that again. They that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary. And they shall walk and not faint. And he let it go silent for a moment. And then he simply said, receive that, Roger, receive. And you know what? I felt an inpouring or an upwelling of something. That's something that says, it's going to be all right. You've got what it takes. This too shall pass. And after a little bit of this receiving time, he then said, all right, Roger, I want you to imagine that your spirit is freed from its former cage, and it is like an eagle. Imagine that your spirit is like that eagle, soaring with great majesty and power. And after I did that for, I don't even know, I'd lost track of time, he then brought me in for a landing, and he had me open my eyes. I was in a whole different space. I hope you are too. And he said, do you know where those words came from? And I said, well, I think the book of Isaiah. And he was pleased that I knew that much. He said, yeah, Isaiah 40:31. He said, now I want you to keep repeating those words and do things like we just did. That's your strength. And I went home and I wrote all that down, and I practiced that week in and week out for a long time. And you know, I remember that chapter of self-doubt. I felt it close. And I knew that life was carrying me on. So as we have this inner Zoom meeting with Source, it's not about forcing anything, and it's not an intellectual activity. It's an opening, it's a yielding, it's moving the frequency of our being into the larger reality and the light and the frequency of the divine, of love. And there's an automatic empowerment. It's not like we got to make it look like we're powerful and put on any airs around that. There's an automatic empowerment when we know that truth, that we are one in and of and with the one. Our beloved founder, Ernest Holmes, he wrote, the secret of spiritual power is a consciousness of one's union with the whole and the availability of unlimited good. There are times we have to zoom back into that awareness, I believe. And one of my favorite passages from the Bible is, God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. That's who you are. Your power, your love, your soundness and creativity of mind. So yeah, I invite you to have some inner Zoom meetings, and then follow that up after you've Zoomed with your source with an inner Zoom meeting with your heart. What happens in times that are critical, unprecedented, unexpected, is that in our fear and uncertainty, we can close our hearts. And that's one of the most challenging things we do, because the heart is the portal to power, you see. And so we actually cut ourselves off from that power zone that is most essential for us. And so it's so important to kind of like have that inner Zoom, that intentional and dynamic connection with that great portal within us into power, to love, to potential. That's our heart, to relax and to open our hearts and to feel that welling up of that infinite love that we're a part of. And it's like we get something back. We get our energy, our zest, our power back. I've loved something that I've had in my files for a long time, written by Shelley Mickle. I want to share this with you. I love this. In 1958, when I was in 5th grade, everybody in my little cotton town in Arkansas thought my cousin Ted was going to die of a heartache. He had been engaged to a girl for 2 years, and right before the wedding, she gave back the engagement ring and called the whole thing off. Ted wouldn't get out of bed. He wouldn't eat. He put his 56 Chevy up on blocks in his front yard, and he took off the wheels. But worse was the engagement ring, which sat in the front window of the jewelry store on Main Street with a sign that said, "Resale on consignment." Nobody wanted that ring. It had become a symbol of love gone bad. My family thought there was only one chance for Ted. We sent word to my Auntie Lucille to make her famous rascal soup. Rascal soup. Aunt Lucille swore that no matter what your problem was, her soup was guaranteed to reawaken the rascal in you. And so she'd bring a jar of her soup to anybody's house for whatever reason. Flu, bad grades, bankruptcy, a tax audit, a death in the family. When I had been down and out with the measles in 2nd grade, she brought me a bottle of her soup. It had vegetables floating in chicken broth, surrounded by noodles shaped into the letters of my first name. Maybe the magic of her soup came from how long you spent fishing those noodles out that spelled your name, and then the long while you took carefully moving those letters on your spoon into your mouth. Because by the time you finished that soup, you had plenty of time to slowly reassess who you really were. Anyhow, that soup didn't make you feel stronger, and usually the next day you're going about the world with a renewed rascally spunk. So on Valentine's Day in 1958, Aunt Lucille delivered her soup to my cousin Ted. After a whole day of eating T-E-D, and Aunt Lucille's delicious soup, Cousin Ted got up, went down to that jewelry store, took that ring out of the window, and started wearing it himself. He put the wheels back on his car, and he drove over to the next town, where he finally lost that ring in a poker game. And then, on his way home, he stopped by a roadside cafe and met his current wife. Now, I'm not saying that soup performed miracles, but my cousin Ted and his wife Betty Ann have been married for 40 years. To me, the miracle, yeah, maybe the soup, but the miracle, it's a miracle of heart. It's the opening up of compassion for ourselves, how life can be difficult, unpredictable, and yet we come back through our hearts to who we really are, and we discover that we can hold ourselves in compassion, which then equips us to hold others in compassion. And oh, isn't that needed right now? Compassion for those on the front lines of this pandemic, the medical people, the first responders, the delivery people, all of those kinds of people. And those who are struggling, perhaps afflicted, have had losses. As we zoom with our hearts, we have that intentional and dynamic connection with what really matters, we also discover the kind of compassion that allows us to hold both sadness and joy in the same way. It's not either or. It's like we still have a heart of compassion, and we still know that life is good and that we have light to shine, and it shines primarily through our hearts. How about a Zoom meeting with your heart on a regular basis? And then follow that up with an inner Zoom meeting with your possibilities. Sometimes we let our sense of options and dreams and vision shrink at times like this. And yet possibility still exists. And one thing about the heart, and the heart math people have been talking a lot about this in recent years, is the heart is the portal to what quantum physics calls the field of infinite potentiality. So there's a part of us that melds into the dimension where everything is possible. Not everything has unfolded into form and experience, but everything is held as a possibility. All that ever shall be is held as a possibility in this field. And your heart puts you into that field. So how about zooming with the part of you that participates in an infinite possibility and begin to open to that? Again, you may not know the specifics, but you can open to that sense of ever unfolding possibility. This past February, Erica and I, along with my colleague Howard Caesar and his wife Diane, we took a group of about 50 people on a pilgrimage to Egypt. I'll always remember the day we spent in the Valley of the Kings, which is where they discovered all those tombs. And we went into 3 of them, and spectacular carvings on the wall and various things. And then we saw and we passed King Tut's tomb, perhaps the most famous of them. And I recalled the story of archaeologist Howard Carter, who discovered that tomb, one of the rare tombs that had everything in it intact, had not been looted at all. He discovered it in 1922. He knew previously that tomb probably existed, and he got a bunch of backers. He was so zealous, a bunch of backers to fund this effort. And so he got the money, and he went over and he dug and he dug and he dug, and week after week after week passed. And as time went on, more and more of these backers pulled out until there was only one of them left. And he too contacted Carter and said, "I'm done. There's going to be no money. However, I will fund this final week of digging." So they continued to dig. And just before the last day, he and his team discovered the entrance into that tomb. And it says that he opened up a tiny hole in the stone doorway into that tomb. And he peered in. There wasn't much light, but he peered in. And he could tell it was all there. And then he sealed up that door, and he rushed into town to send a message to that single lone backer that remained, that he had found the discovery. And after he had sent the message, the telegraph operator said, "Well, what did you see?" And almost in a trance, Carter said some very famous words. He said, "I see great and wonderful things that I haven't even discovered yet. I see great and wonderful things that I haven't even discovered yet." And when we do an inner zoom with possibility, we sense that there are great and wonderful things that are available for us, that the universe wants to pour forth in and through us. We sense that. We may not know all about them and all that they hold, but we sense that energy of possibility that wants to flow by means of us. I love it in the Bible when God says to Jeremiah, he says, "I know the plans that I have for you, plans to prosper you, plans to give you hope and a future." That is exactly the very same proclamation at the heart of you and me. The divine saying, "I've got plans, bigger than you know. Keep your consciousness open and receive them." So I invite you in these weeks, have some quiet time with yourself, and I invite you to have some inner Zoom meetings. Zoom inwardly, with that same purpose of creating an intentional and dynamic connection with the highest about life and about you. And you'll find it's important. Zoom with your source, zoom with your heart, Zoom with your possibilities. And of course, I had to have an acronym for Zoom, and I think it's Zone of Original Magnificence. And when you zoom in these ways, you find yourself right there in the zone of original magnificence, and that is the power zone you can reclaim. Remember, God has not given you the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. I love you. I know who you are. Let's have a prayer together. Infinite Spirit Divine, desiring this intentional and dynamic connection with the core reality of all life, the love of all life, the love and the intelligence and the power of our very own being. We do dedicate ourselves to our deepening, to our listening, and we open to receive a new energetic of inner empowerment and joy, new creativity, new insights as to how we can make a difference at this time. New insights as to how we can continue to blossom. That same energy that allows the sprout to break through the concrete and move toward the light, we know together is at work within us right now. And we just allow it to be, feeling the soothing and at the same time the energy. And I just give thanks that by means of this, a whole army of rascals is unleashed into this world, feeling new energy, new hope, new creativity right where we are and all that lies before us, as we know that we are avenues and expressions of this divine life. So I affirm goodness, abundance, wholeness, guidance, wellness, and creative life unfolding for you and for me and for all. So blessing all that are giving so fully at this time and supporting all of us, and knowing how we too are a part of the good of it all, we give thanks. And with great, great gratitude, we let this be so, standing firmly in this place of spiritual power. And so we do let it be, and so it is. Amen.
Thank you, God, for everything. 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 Oh, thank you, God, for everything. Thank you, God, for everything.
Yes. Thank you, God, and thank you, Tom. This is a time of, again, opening our hearts to share. And again, as we zoom with the truth of our being and with our hearts, we realize we're still very powerful beings, capable of sharing powerfully, capable of letting our lights shine. So wherever you are, seize upon your heart and sense your power and let power flow. And I just invite us to powerfully support this incredible ministry doing such wonderful things. Erica and I do week in and week out. We love this place, and we just invite you into this time of sharing, and you'll start the cycle of greater good. You'll attract greater and greater abundance, for as you give, so shall you receive. So let's just affirm that very, very beautiful declaration used most every Sunday. Divine love, as me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, and all that I circulate. And so it is.
Close your tired eyes, relax, and then count from 1 to 10 and open them. Oh, these heavy thoughts will shooting star. So shine no matter where you are tonight. Brighter than a shooting star. So shine no matter where you are tonight. Gaze into my eyes when the fire starts. Fan the flame so hot it melts our heart. Oh, the pouring rain, we'll try to put it out, but not this time. Let your colors burn and brightly burst to a million sparks that all disperse and illuminate the world that'll try to weigh you down, but not this time. When the sun goes down and the lights burn out, well, it's time for you to shine brighter than a shooting star. So shine no matter where you are till the darkest night with a brilliant light. 'Cause it's time for you to shine brighter than a shooting star. So shine no matter where you are tonight. Brighter than a shooting star. So shine no matter where you are. 1,000 heartbeats beat in time and makes this dark planet come alive. So when the lights flicker out tonight, you've gotta shine. When the light burns out and the lights burn out, well, it's time for you to shine brighter than a shooting star. So shine no matter where you are till the darkest night with a brilliant light. 'Cause it's time for you to shine brighter than a shooting star. So shine no matter where you are tonight. Brighter than a shooting star. So shine no matter where you are tonight.
Wow, what a great opportunity, an invitation to shine and to Zoom. We are so blessed to have been blessed by beautiful music and by the wisdom of Dr. Roger Teel and by you. Thanks so much for being here today, and we hope you will join us for our services in the coming weeks. This Wednesday night, Reverend Josh and Dr. Roger and I will be back for a Wednesday night service online at 7 o'clock, so we hope you'll be here with us. Next Sunday, Reverend Josh is going to be speaking. We'll be here at 10 a.m., Wednesday night at 7 p.m., so we are so looking forward to having you with us. And then in a couple weeks, on May 3rd, we want you to know that Mary Morrissey will be with us for that Sunday morning service. She'll be here online, and she's giving us a talk in that wonderful way that we're hearing from some of our guest artists. So we hope you'll be with us for that. And please know that our prayer room is open now. If you'd like to receive some prayer today, you can go to milehighchurch.org/prayer and either put a written request in, or the prayer rooms are open. We have Zoom rooms available where practitioners will be happy to meet you and pray with you right here, right now today. So we hope you'll join us for that. Thanks so much for being with us. Wherever you are, let's sing the peace song together, shall we? Have a great week.
God as our power, family all our way. Let us walk with each other.